Break and continue. In this video, we'll learn how and when to terminate loops prematurely. Consider the following program. In the first line, we declare a variable named x set equal to 1. Then in the next line, we begin a while loop, where the condition states that the loop should continue for as long as x is greater than 0. Then inside the while loop, we print out the phrase hello world. Then in the next line, we decrease x by 1. When we execute this statement, x becomes equal to 0, thus making the condition false as of this moment. However, the loop doesn't terminate yet. The loop has to finish the entire body first before it can terminate. So we continue, we go on to the next line, we print how are you? And now that line is executed, now we can return back to the top of the loop, evaluate the condition, determine that it's false, and thus complete the while loop. Now, the fact that we were not able to terminate the loop the very precise moment that the condition became false, but instead had to wait until after we finished all the statements in the body, that can be a good or bad thing depending on the intent of the programmer, right? Some applications, you'll want the while loop to wait until after we've finished all of the conditional statements. However, there will be some applications where you want your while loop to be able to terminate right in the middle of the loop as soon as a certain condition becomes false. If that's what I want for this program, then these are the changes I'll have to make. First, I'll need to change my condition to true. What this does is it guarantees that when we reach the top of the while loop, the condition will always evaluate to true. The reason I'm doing this is because I don't want the loop to terminate at the very top. I want to be able to terminate the loop inside the body, inside the middle of the loop. Then, the next change I would make, after decreasing x by 1, I would insert an if statement. Now recall that our original intent was for the while loop to continue for as long as x is larger than 0. Thus, for my if statement, I'll say if x is less than or equal to 0, then break. Break means exit the while loop. Break means terminate the while loop early, right? And if the condition is false, it'll skip the break statement and then go on to the print how are you statement. So let's demonstrate how this program will execute. We start with the first line where we declare x and set it equal to 1. Next, we start our while loop. We see the condition is already set to true, so we go inside the body. We print hello world. We decrease x by 1. Then we go to our if statement. It states if x is less than or equal to 0, this will be true since x was initially 1 and we decreased it by 1 in line 4. So since the if condition is true, we'll go on to the break statement, which tells us to terminate the while loop. It tells us to exit the while loop early. And thus the print how are you statement does not get executed. For our second and final topic, consider this program. Based on your knowledge of for loops, you can most likely read this and be able to tell that the output for this program will be the numbers 5 through 15. 16 not included because, once again, 16 is the stopping point. Now, suppose I wanted to make a small change to this program. Suppose I wanted to output every number between 5 and 15 except the number 10. I want to skip the number 10. How could I do that? There are two ways I could do that. The first way would be to say, when entering my for loop, if I is not equal to 10, then print the value I. This would give me the output I want. All numbers between 5 and 15 except the value 10. The other way I could do this is to state if I is equal to 10, then continue. Otherwise, print the variable I. Now, what does continue mean? Continue means stop the current iteration where you're at and skip ahead to the next iteration. Continue does not mean exit the entire for loop. Continue simply means exit the current iteration, increase your loop variable, move on to the next iteration. And if the condition is false, if I is not equal to 10, then it'll complete the iteration. It'll print out the I variable. This program would also lead to the same output. All numbers between 5 and 15 except the number 10.